Does the F-35 make traditional dogfighting obsolete? Just before midnight, an F-35 slips into the sky without drama, no roaring climb, no flashing afterburners. Somewhere ahead, another jet is already airborne. The problem? The fight may have ended before either pilot sees the other. For most of the last century, air combat was explained in simple terms. Two aircraft close the distance. Pilots pull hard into tight turns. One gains a better angle, the other falls behind. The contest ends in seconds. That picture shaped movies, training manuals, and public imagination. It also shaped aircraft design. Speed, climb rate, and turn performance were treated almost like personality traits. A good fighter had to be quick on its feet. Cold War machines such as the F-14, F-15, and MiG-29 were built with that contest in mind. Engineers worried about wing loading and thrust. Pilots are trained to read subtle changes in motion. Survival often depended on who handled the aircraft better when the sky became a narrow circle. That image still lingers, and it is easy to see why. A close-range fight is visible. It is dramatic. It makes sense at a glance. You can point to the moment one pilot wins. What is less visible is everything that happens before two jets ever approach each other. Over time, radar improved, missiles traveled farther and guided themselves with greater precision. Aircraft gained the ability to fire at opponents they could not see with the naked eye. Each advance brought predictions that the dogfight was finished. Each conflict proved that close-range encounters still occurred. The real change today is not a single weapon or a modest increase in range. The change lies in how modern aircraft process and share information. That shift alters the sequence of events in a fight. The turning contest that once defined air combat now sits at the far end of a longer chain of detection, analysis, and decision. The F-35 stands at the center of this development. Many observers look at it and focus on familiar measures. It does not break speed records. Its outline does not resemble a classic dueling machine. Critics have called it bulky. Those comments assume that the old standard still governs the sky. The aircraft was not created to circle tightly with an opponent at close range. It was built to shape the engagement before such a meeting becomes necessary. Its designers placed priority on situational awareness. Radar, infrared sensors, and electronic support systems operate together as a single set rather than as separate tools. Older fighters often presented pilots with scattered streams of data. One display showed radar contacts, another handled targeting. A third issued electronic warnings. The pilot had to assemble the picture under pressure. That required skill, yet it also created strain and left room for error. The F-35 approaches the problem differently. Information from its sensors is combined into one coherent view through sensor fusion. The pilot sees a refined picture rather than scattered clues. Contacts are labeled and tracked in real time. The aircraft performs much of the sorting work in the background, which allows the human in the cockpit to focus on judgment. This approach changes the pilot's role. Attention shifts from managing equipment to making choices. That may sound subtle, yet it carries weight. A pilot who spends less time interpreting raw signals has more time to consider timing, position, and the broader flow of the mission. Stealth adds another layer to this change. It does not make the aircraft vanish. It reduces the distance at which it can be detected and shapes how it appears on radar. That difference grants freedom of action. A pilot who can observe without drawing immediate attention gains an early edge. Consider two crews approaching the same area. One relies on conventional radar returns and assumes the other side may see them at similar distances. The other operates with a reduced signature and strong passive sensors. One crew scans and wonders. The other has already begun building a working picture of the sky. Time matters in this setting. A few extra moments to identify a contact can determine whether an aircraft presses forward, climbs, turns away, or calls for support. Those decisions accumulate. They shape the geometry of the encounter long before weapons come into play. The traditional dogfight begins when two aircraft are close enough to see each other clearly. The pilot who once relied mainly on quick reflexes and tight turns now depends on judgment, restraint, and trust in systems that present a broader view of the sky. The popular image of two jets spiraling in a visible duel remains powerful. It tells a clean story. Modern engagements are less tidy. They unfold in layers. One layer appears only through sensors. Another exists in radio traffic and data links. The final layer may be a missile launch that seems sudden to the side that never saw the full picture. Whether dogfighting becomes rare or simply less central depends on how often that early information advantage prevents aircraft from ever closing the distance. The F-35 represents a clear attempt to make the close-range duel the exception rather than the rule. A pilot who is guessing spends time filling gaps. A pilot who understands the layout of the flight can act with purpose. Classic dogfights depend on shared visibility. Each pilot knows where the other is. Each accepts the risk of closing the distance. The contest feels balanced. The F-35 unsettles that balance. When one aircraft holds more information from the start, the incentive to enter a tight-turning duel fades. Close-range fights become less common when the engagement seems shaped in advance. History, however, urges restraint. Earlier generations placed faith in guided missiles and assumed guns were no longer necessary. Combat in Southeast Asia proved that belief flawed. Close encounters returned and aircraft were redesigned with internal cannons. Modern systems remain vulnerable to failure. A missile can lose track. Electronic warfare can cloud sensors. A sudden visual meeting can unfold without warning. In those moments, maneuvering skill still matters. The F-35 is not defenseless at short range. Its helmet display allows a pilot to cue weapons simply by looking at a target. Modern short-range missiles can strike at wide angles, which reduces the need to point the aircraft directly at an opponent. These features provide options if the fight tightens. The guiding principle remains consistent. Avoid the merge when possible. Engage from a position of advantage. Treat close combat as a last measure rather than the goal. Practical limits also exist. The F-35 program has faced criticism over cost, maintenance demands, and software delays. Complex systems introduce complexity in operation. A malfunction in one area can restrict capability in another. Engineers accounted for some of these risks. The aircraft was designed to remain functional even when certain features are limited. Production has grown steadily. Many Allied air forces now operate the type as a central part of their fleets. Its presence shapes planning across the board. Adversaries must consider the possibility of facing stealth aircraft supported by shared targeting data and coordinated networks. That possibility influences route selection, fuel planning, and sensor use before any aircraft departs. The central question returns in simple terms. Does the F-35 render dogfighting obsolete? The answer requires nuance. It does not remove the possibility. It reduces the likelihood. Modern air combat emphasizes who detects first, who understands first, and who acts first. A turning contest becomes unnecessary when the engagement concludes at a longer range. Awareness shapes events earlier in the sequence. The aircraft reflects a broader movement in military thought. Data, sensors, and processing systems define the first phase of combat. Quiet assessment precedes visible action. Weapon fire confirms a decision made earlier. The F-35 does not abolish the dogfight. It changes when and why it occurs. In present-day skies, knowledge carries greater weight than raw agility. The decisive moment may arrive long before aircraft draw close enough for a spiral in open air. If this discussion offered a clearer view of how air combat is evolving, consider subscribing to more conversations on modern aviation. Share your thoughts below. Does the close-range duel still hold a place in future conflicts, or has the balance truly shifted?